Game one of the 2023-24 season tipped off on Wednesday, and Miami got away with a 103-102 victory over the Pistons. We break down the game and who stood out, but there were all too familiar struggles that could be a bad omen for the rest of the season. Is it too soon to be concerned? We'll answer that and more in today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. I'm Goldberg. Joining me as always, it's David Ramil. However you might be tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app. Thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. So the Heat almost beat the Pistons by double digits in an easy win, but instead they had to do it the hard way. After the Heat led by 19 in the fourth quarter, the Pistons went on a 14-0 run and eventually cut the lead to 1 with 1 minute and 44 seconds remaining. Cade Cunningham misses a 30-footer at the buzzer, and the Heat escape. They start the season with an ugly 1-point win that game down to a late miss. David, I'm not going to overreact to the first game of this season, but I can't help but think that this is why you kind of need a dress rehearsal in the preseason. This felt like a preseason game. The Heat just testing a bunch of stuff. They didn't know what their rotations were going to be. This is the first time we even saw the confirmed starting lineup. It got sloppy late with some turnovers and things like that. And I think that's ultimately why what should have been a comfortable win ended up being a close win.
Yeah, I think it's also indicative of some struggles that they had offensively, defensively as well. They just couldn't seem to find ways to muster any kind of offense smoothly, a lot like what we saw last year. And the youth and athleticism of the Detroit Pistons kind of caught up to the Heat as well. They were able to kind of cut into that lead, and Cade Cunningham was a monster tonight. He finished with what?
30 points. 9 assists.
Yeah, big night for him, and he just looked
great.
Very, very comfortable out there. Miami had the second unit from Miami was really what helped them build that lead. And then when they got taken out, all of a sudden it felt like Cade Cunningham back in the game was able to chip away at it, and they just didn't have a proper response for it.
52 clutch games last year.
Yeah.
1 out of 1 so far this year.
Say, you know, we get our money's worth here at Kaseya Center.
I'm so sick of this, man. Like, please don't make this copy and paste version of last year. I know the roster is basically it did. It really did to a young team that basically had no business being in this game. And look, I already said I wasn't going to overreact to just one game. It felt like a preseason game for that second half, didn't it?
Yeah, it was sloppy. It was really bad. I will overreact. Not overreact. I will react appropriately.
Okay.
I think this team is not very good during the regular season, and I think it won't necessarily matter the same way it did last year. And I think they kind of, crapped the bed a little bit against a team that really crapped the bed. Like, they were horrific. Like, Detroit is not a very good team. They were very young. They're still figuring things out, and they shot themselves in the foot time and time again with a number of turnovers, unforced errors on their part. Miami capitalized to their credit, but that's not good enough. That's not good enough to get it done. It's
the old sports radio question. Did the Heat win this game, or did the Pistons lose it? And it kind of felt like the Pistons lost it with that first half specifically that the Heat basically blew them out in. Look, I don't know that I'm ready to go that far. Again, it felt like a preseason game to me. This is the first time that it was confirmed that Kyle Lowry was the starting point guard. The first game that it was confirmed that Kevin Love was the starting power forward. It was the first time we saw anything even close to this rotation, because it was also the first time we saw Jimmy Butler at all in this calendar season. So,
that's a good point.
Look, I want to actually I don't know how much more I have to take away from the specifics of the game. It just sort of felt like the Pistons went on a run late in that game, and the Heat ended up having to win on missed Cade Cunningham three-pointer at the buzzer. To kind of get into more of the trends and the things that we can learn from this, I think we learned about Miami's rotation, right? Again, first time we really saw it. Starting lineup, Lowry, Herro, Jimmy Butler, Kevin Love, Bam Adebayo, not at all surprising. 4 of those guys, double-digit scoring. One of them, 0 points, because I don't even know. He got credited for 1 shot, Kyle Lowry did. I'm not even convinced it was a shot. It kind of looked to me like a fake lob attempt. I don't really know. And that didn't even happen until there was 1:40 left in the game at a desperation at the end of a shot clock. So Kyle Lowry took 0 shots in the flow of the offense the entire night, regardless of how you credit that one. I'm a little concerned about that.
I don't know what to say. We saw that last year too, and I don't know if he's just trying to play it safe, if he's just being efficient, or if he thinks his job is so completely to get everybody else going and not wind up being more active offensively. But that's not the version that we saw from him in the postseason either. Right. So he knows how important it is for him to be able to take good shots, but maybe it's just because those shots weren't easy for him to get at the rim and he doesn't feel comfortable taking shots from the perimeter. If that's the case, then I don't know what to say. Like,
it's not like he was like getting dudes involved either. He had 2 assists.
Yeah.
You know, it was very much like my job is to get the ball across half court and then give it to Jimmy or Bam or Tyler so that they can run the offense. I don't know. And it's not like he's the defensive player that he once was at 37 years old. I said this to you before. I think there's a lot of people, and we have a question about this when we get to our listener questions later, about Tyler Herro's inefficiency and the volume of shooting. He took 24 field goal attempts, by far the most on the team tonight. Kyle Lowry took 1 field goal attempt. The Miami starting backcourt today took 25 field goal attempts. So, like, I guess when you look at it that way, that's a normal amount of field goal attempts for your starting backcourt. So Tyler Herro is just doing what Kyle Lowry wasn't doing, and that's sort of my defense of Tyler Herro tonight. It's okay. Maybe you're not happy with the fact that he went 7 for 24, but at least he was taking shots. The other version of that on the extreme side of the spectrum is what we saw from Kyle Lowry. Let's get into that second unit that you mentioned, though. It's basically led by Tyler Herro, and then it's along with Caleb Martin, Jaime Jaquez, Thomas Bryant, Duncan Robinson's a part of it. Drew Smith got off the bench for 8 minutes and 40 seconds, and he was fine. Got a bunch of deflections, didn't really do much offensively. But that second unit is something I'm actually really excited about.
Yeah,
I want to talk about Thomas Bryant specifically in that second unit when we get to the next segment. But I think that was the right call. And again, it's maybe not exactly what it's going to be because no Josh Richardson, no Haywood Highsmith tonight.
Yes.
But I do like what Spoelstra is doing with these rotations, keeping Bam and Jimmy and Lowry kind of together, and then getting Tyler a unit where I keep calling it sort of jokingly like the let Tyler Herro cook lineup. But that's essentially what it comes down to.
Yeah, he was basically carrying the offense, at least in the terms of field goal attempts and stuff like that. But Bryant was checking in, very impactful in his minutes. Jaquez bringing incredible energy. I think the offense was running through Herro, but there were other opportunities for everybody else. Duncan Robinson getting his opportunities that way. He had a really solid outing as well. And you brought up the fact that Jimmy and Kyle were getting their minutes. They tied together. Like they both came on and off the floor to run basically the same time. And I think it makes sense at this point in their respective careers.
One other thing that is sort of like a concerning note for me is the 3-point shooting. 22 3-point attempts for the game for Miami, 32 for Detroit. So it's not exactly like they were firing it up at a 2023 level either. But 22 is just unbelievably low.
Same as last year.
Eric Spoelstra said after the game, he's like, for you analytics people, we will get these numbers up. I love when Spo acts like he's not an analytics guy because he is.
Like what numbers? How dare you mention numbers as statistical proof of us being inefficient? But the 3-point shooting, the lack thereof, like the lack of 3-point attempts was really concerning. They shot at a high percentage because they didn't shoot hardly any.
Yeah, 36%.
Yeah, that's not great. Credit to Detroit's defense. They were trying their best. They showed a lot on defense. They have mobile bigs in Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren that can go and show and you try to put a hand up and stuff like that. They have a lot of young wing players.
Asad Thompson can defend now.
Asad Thompson, we should mention him. Like he set a tone early on. He swatted shots from Tyler. I think he swatted a Jimmy Butler shot.
Took Jimmy one-on-one, forced him baseline, forced the ball out of his hands. And I'm like, oh my God, this is in the first 4 minutes of the game. And I'm like, this guy is like at an NBA level defender right now. And he wouldn't even play like real basketball. Yeah. Played an overtime elite before. So I'm not even sure where this came from.
But he was solid. But okay.
The 3-point shooting though, I look at 2 guys and I've mentioned this to you before, I think on air, but definitely off air. Tyler Herro and Duncan Robinson, it's kind of on them.
Yeah.
I mean, Kyle Lowry's got to get more than 0 up, but it really comes down to Tyler and Duncan. Duncan took 10 shots. Only half of them were threes. Tyler took 24 shots. Only 7 of them were threes. Kevin Love took 6 3-pointers. He went 3 for 6. He was good tonight. And they don't win this game if Kevin Love doesn't go 3 for 6 or 3. No. I mean, you need more from Tyler. You need more from Duncan. I'm not really sure where the rest of the 3-pointers come from. Caleb took 3 of them. 7 of his 3 attempts or 3 of his 7 field goal attempts were 3-pointers, but somebody on this team just has to put the shots up. And I don't really care if they're even quality shots at this point. necessarily. They just got to get them early enough in the shot clock where they could push the pace up a little bit, and then they can get way more than 22 of them.
You'd like for them to have been able to set a tone earlier on with hitting some of those shots and then kind of pushing back on Detroit's defense and kind of keeping them on their heels, because that kind of throws them off. Then they have to make adjustments, especially when they're a young team and they don't necessarily know what the next step should be defensively. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Tyler was bombing early often, and he wasn't hitting. And I think he was kind of forcing a little bit. At least
started 1 for 9.
Yeah, that was my perspective, was that he was forcing a little bit. You like that, and I could see your point in that you thought him putting up those shots was necessary in order to, again, you can't hit those shots if you don't take them in the first place, which is, I guess that's what
I mean, it's more of like somebody's got to take them. Nobody else was taking them. So I'm just glad somebody was out there willing to take the shots.
But some of those were, I think, a little out of rhythm, and they got forced a little bit, maybe a couple too many.
We're going to touch on that a little bit later on in the show too, because we do have a question about it. But for now, it's time for credit cookies. And honestly, man, I've got some cookies to hand out that I'm surprised I'm handing out to certain players at this point in the season. We'll talk about that next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Ibotta. How does free Thanksgiving sound? This year, Ibotta is here to give you cash back and help you make sure your Thanksgiving table is complete, because who wants turkey without the gravy, or tofurkey in my case? Turkey is great, but we all know the best part of Thanksgiving dinner is the sides. With Ibotta, you can make sure you get the whole family's favorite side dishes and the turkey, all while getting yourself cash back. Starting November 1st, for the 4th year in a row, Ibotta is giving 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Just add the offers in the app to redeem for everything that you need to make your Thanksgiving feast complete. All you have to do is shop at your favorite retailers and upload your receipt. It's that easy. Download the Ibotta app now and use the code LOCKED. That's LOCKED to get 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving dinner starting November 1st. Today's episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is so easy to use. It's a great app. There's so many different options there for you to place a wager, and making daily fantasy easy, because that's what PrizePicks is all about. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and remember to use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app. For our everydayers out there, really excited to bring you our interview with Eric Reed, Heat play-by-play legend Eric Reed, on Friday. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Yeah, I mean, he was great. But it's time for the tastiest segment on Locked On Heat, and it's just begging for a sponsor. It's credit cookies. Let's get it started with a Heat win. They start the year 1-0, and I want to start with Bam Adebayo. 22 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 7 of 13 overall. Look, nothing eye-popping from this game in general from anybody on the Heat, but the thing about Bam that stood out to me was the 10 free throw attempts.
Yeah.
That is going to be so huge. I mean, 7 of 13 is not bad from the field. That's a really good rate.
Yeah.
But the field goal attempts are going to be so important for him this year, and I just love how much he was getting to the basket. And again, one game, you get a win here. It was closer than you wanted it to be, but I'm looking at trends. I'm looking at what we can learn from this, and one of the things that I'm learning from Bam here is he's still an elite defender. He's still awesome at all the other things that he does, and he's trying at least to get to the free throw line a little bit more. And you had actually a really good observation that you had told me up at Media Row about the fact that it just feels like he's getting a better whistle right now.
Yeah, I think he's taken that kind of star leap where he's drawing the context. It's pretty obvious, and the referees are making those calls in his favor. Not something that we saw over the last like 2 seasons after he became a starter. I don't think he was in that elite level class. I think he is now. I think between him and Jimmy, you're going to see combined maybe 15, 16 free throws per game between the two of them.
It was 19 tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would assume that that's the case moving forward, because they don't whine, they don't complain, they get the friendly whistle, and they're star level players. And we saw that all the way through their postseason run. So
it's a great observation, man. It's I wonder, like, him being in the finals last year, does that just kind of get the officials' attention a little bit? Like, okay, this dude's a star, and he deserves these calls. And by the way, he's earning them. He's getting to the basket. Yes. You could argue he probably earned them last year and wasn't getting them as much.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, between Detroit's front court being physical and strong and Bam being as active as he was, it makes the calls that much easier. But I mean, he's a top 20, 25 player. Like you
top 20.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of the 5.
You get that respect, and I think he's earned it.
And he's earned 3 credit cookies tonight. I think that's a fair number for him. I'm going to give 3 to Tyler Herro, and I can already feel the pushback. There it is.
No way. I got right here. I've got a list, and Tyler's name is not on it.
How do you not credit Tyler Herro tonight?
Because he
had 16 points. He was a team high. He was a team high +6. I don't care what he shot. He shot. He was good tonight.
No, even worse than 33. So now I'm doing West math here. 7 of 24. That is really abysmal. That's less than 33%.
How do you explain the +6?
Because he was sharing the floor with Jaime Jaquez.
That's true. That's fair. Okay. What did I say? 3. 3 might be a little much. I'm willing to go to 2. Half a cookie?
Half a cookie. For Tyler, his game. Look, I am looking forward to seeing Tyler be much more consistent and being better than he was tonight. But tonight was not his night. Again, he was forcing it, taking a lot of shots. Some of those are good because they're in rhythm. They weren't falling. You can't blame him for that. But you know what? He was taking a lot of shots. And again, at some point, and you saw this, like there were moments there where he knew that he was just like, he had the ball in his hands and he was trying to create offense because he wasn't able to knock those shots down earlier. That's forcing it. That's bad offense to me. So I think it was, look, again, I like the effort and I expect him to have much better games moving forward. Tonight was not his night. He doesn't need credit cookies tonight. Give him the
Where was the good offense? Like, where was the good offense happening tonight
no
for
good
Miami?
Offense.
Yeah.
There wasn't
so
no good
like
offense.
You're saying like Tyler Herro wasn't being good offense. I'm like, it wasn't like there was a better option out there. It wasn't like Kyle Lowry was exactly being out here like, hey, let me set everybody up here.
No.
It was nothing going on.
I won't credit him. I think Bam did fine. I think Jaime Jaquez deserves, in my opinion, 3 credit cookies for his energy level. I think he
played 13 minutes.
And they were impactful 13 minutes. The run happened.
I'm giving him credit cookies, but 3 is too many. All right, so I've got 3 for Tyler Herro credit cookies.
What's the difference? 2 for Jaime and 1 for Tyler.
I'll give 1 to Tyler. I'm going to keep it 1 for Jaime. He played 13 minutes. You can't. That's 1 minute. I mean, if you got 2, let's try to do math here. That's 2 cookies per 6.5 minutes.
I don't know why.
Or 1 cookie per 6.5 minutes. I love Jaime Jaquez. He was wonderful tonight. I love the energy that I played with. Here's the thing I keep saying about Jaime.
When you step away from this game, who was the more impactful player during his minutes? Was it Tyler or was it Jaime?
All right, we're not talking about PER. We're talking about credit cookies. It's a very different kind of advanced analytic.
It's the same thing.
I love Jaime Jaquez Jr. I am all in on this guy. From what we saw in training camp, preseason, now, one of my favorite skills in the NBA, and this is even kind of relates to the Tyler Herro topic, it's I want you to do stuff, make stuff happen. It is such an underrated skill set. And I sort of just joke about, hey, this guy makes stuff happen. But that's such an important skill. There's so many guys in the NBA that don't make anything happen. They make no stuff happen. Right. They're waiting for stuff to happen, and then they can sort of take advantage of the stuff that's happening around them. There's a lot of 3-and-D players who basically just stand out by the perimeter and just wait for stuff to happen. The ball gets kicked out to them, and they make an open jumper, right? But Jaime Jaquez is not that guy. He's a make stuff happen guy. Tyler Herro is a make stuff happen guy. And sometimes those guys don't have really efficient nights. Sometimes they look like what Jaime Jaquez did tonight. 3 of 3 overall, 6 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds. And like, honestly, it feels, to your point, it feels like it was like 60 points and 20 rebounds. Like he was just all over the place in his 13 minutes. Yeah. And he caught some dudes with the pump fakes and the footwork. I love watching him play too.
Yeah. He made Alec Burks look silly. He made I think he might have even had Osar Thompson on one of those pump fakes. But he was bringing the ball up. Like you were calling it the let Tyler cook lineup, but I think it was actually letting Jaime.
It was the Jaime kitchen, man.
He was bringing the ball up. He was initiating. He was making swift passes. He had a nice pass to Thomas Bryant that sailed right through Bryant's hands. And Brian was apologetic, of course, but I think Jaime did a really, really good job. I think he deserves more of the credit tonight than Tyler.
You talked me into it. He's got 2 cookies. Tyler's got 1, which means we have more cookies to give out. But I did ask Jaime Jaquez. We were in the locker room with him after the game, and one of the plays that I really enjoyed was poking the ball away from Jaden Ivey, who I love the Pistons young players, Ivey, Cunningham, Thompson. I love all 3 of those guys. I'm a big Ivey guy, but he does tend to go to his right hand a lot. And I remember asking Jaquez, no recorders, no other reporters around him. I was just like, hey, like when you poke that away, did you see that on the scouting report, or is that just something that sort of happened? And he's like, no, I scouted that. He's like, he always goes to his right hand, especially on that side of the floor when he wants to turn around. He's always going to turn baseline with that right hand. And so I just saw that coming. I kind of put my hand there, and then the ball just ended up being there. I was like, I'm all in on this guy. I'm all in. I'm all in.
High IQ, smart guy.
I'm all in.
Does the work. I mean, I think he's going to be very productive.
All right. We've got a few more credit cookies to give out, and then we've got our listener questions. We're going to get to that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Step into the action this NFL and NBA season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL and NBA.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. A few more credit cookies to give out. Did you have Duncan Robinson on your list?
I did. Absolutely.
Duncan Robinson definitely deserves it. Quick stat line on him. 15 points off the bench, 6 of 10 shooting, 3 of 5 from three-point range, a couple of rebounds, an assist, no turnovers, and just the one foul that he got in his 22 minutes.
Finals Duncan, or postseason Duncan, I should say. Yeah, I think he was really, really good. You were a little upset at first about his kind of mixing it in and going to the mid-range shot, the floater on a couple occasions, but then he started finding his rhythm from downtown, and he just looked really, really good. You mentioned he had his swagger back, and I think he did. I think he does look like, again, the version of him that was there a couple seasons ago when he just signed a contract and everybody was doubting him, and he probably had a raging case of imposter syndrome, and I think he's kind of gotten over that to a certain extent.
Yeah, there was that play in the first half where he comes around a Bam Adebayo screen, or maybe it was a Thomas Bryant screen at that point, because it was all full second unit, I think. But puts the ball, passes up an open-ish three-pointer, puts the ball on the floor, and then just drives to the lane for a wide open layup. And you're to my left, and you kind of pump fake, and I throw my hands up, and I'm just like, no, take the three-pointer. And I was right, because they only took 22 three-pointers tonight. If that didn't happen, they would have had 23. And that's kind of the same thing. So. But again, looking at this game, I keep trying to zoom out and look at trends. And the trend that I have with Duncan is the swagger. It's exactly all of that. He's got his confidence. He's rounded out his game in a way that makes him feel better. And I'll take.
Are you saying that's a positive?
I am saying that I'm okay with it in doses, but he needs to take more threes. 5 out of the 10 shots is not enough. It should be closer to like 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. But he's assisting. He knows exactly what he's doing. And his off-ball movement is so important. It's opening up things for so many guys.
It's still it was just perfect precision. And never ended. It's been such a mainstay of this team for the last couple of seasons, and it's still there tonight.
Let's do it quickly with Jimmy Butler. I'm going to give him one credit cookie. It was an okay night for him. 19 points, 6 of 18 shooting. Went to the free throw line, went 7 of 9 from there, had 13 rebounds, but it felt like 12 of those rebounds were off of his own misses in this one at the basket. Had 4 assists, 2 steals. It was a quiet Jimmy Butler night. It was a good Jimmy Butler night.
I think we're a little spoiled after the postseason run. If it's not 40 points, we're like, oh well, he was out there, I guess. But yeah, he was really good early on, and my notes indicate Jimmy's still good, because he really is. Like, he made such a difference early on. Miami struggled offensively, and then Jimmy starts cooking, getting everybody involved. The next thing you know, Miami's able to build on a lead. So we have one more credit cookie to give out, if I have my math right. I've got mine to Thomas Bryant. I see a different name on your list. That's right, Kevin Love. I think, again, I said that he was going to be an X factor for the season if he's hitting that three-point shot. And tonight, he might have played his best game of the season. I don't know how much more sustainable this kind of level from him is. That's depressing. That's not a tongue in cheek, or I don't mean to be making a joke here. I don't know that he can put up these kinds of points regularly. 13? Yeah. Oh, regularly. Okay. He could do 13 again. Did he? Could he last year? Like in the brief stint that he was there? He had those occasional games. I don't want to make it seem like I'm knocking him. He was really good, and he was able to hit those shots after what we saw from him in the preseason. Excuse me. I wasn't confident that he was going to be able to have this kind of a level game, and he was really impactful. It is his best game of the season so far. I think we can agree on that. His 10 rebounds were huge. Again, he didn't lead the team in rebounds. That was Jimmy with 13. But Kevin Love had real rebounds, like on the defensive end, to end Detroit possessions against a big Pistons front line of Jalen Duren
and Isaiah Stewart. They had Marvin Bagley playing 16 minutes off the bench also. Yeah. They needed his rebounds. Miami was out-rebounded in this one 56-48, which is fine, I think, for this team. That's right about where I expect them to sort of be. Absolutely. But without Kevin Love's 10 real rebounds, that looks a lot different, and they probably lose this game. So I'm okay with giving the credit cookies to Kevin Love over Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant, shout out, though. Yeah, absolutely. Solid game for him. Yeah. All right, let's get to our listener questions. Thanks to everybody who sent in questions using the hashtag AskLOHeat. This one comes from Professor X, who writes in, why is Tyler so inefficient? It feels like we've already covered this topic a lot in this game in terms of the inefficiency. 7 of 24. We never really got down to the what that percentage actually is. I guess we'll do some more research on that. But I can live with the inefficiency when I see what it is that he's trying to do, and he's trying to get to the rim more. He did dribble into a couple of mid-range shots. That's always going to be part of his shot diet, especially if he's taking 24 shots a night. I'm okay if Tyler is taking 20 to 25 shots a night. I do hope for that efficiency to go up.
My problem is the number 0, the number of free throws that he took. And I think that's going to be the biggest concern moving forward, is that he's going to take these shots regardless. And sometimes they're going to fall, sometimes they're not. Unfortunately, tonight they did not fall. He's got to be able to get that call. And there were a couple times there where he drove to the rim and he felt like he should have gotten the call, and he did not. That's unfortunate. But I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's a tenuous relationship between him and the referees or anything like that. But
it's just not his game. I mean, he used to just make that a floater, right? Like last season, that's a floater. That's a stop and pop, or maybe even a kick out a little bit.
I think it might is contact, and he's drawing it. Yeah, if that's the case, and he's not getting the calls, then that's a bigger problem.
I hope that he doesn't stop trying to draw it. It's one game. I hope he doesn't stop trying to draw it. I hope that this, like, a couple games don't go by and he's trying to get to the basket. And he's like, look, he's talked about putting on more weight. He's up to 205 right now. He's talked about trying to get to the basket more and draw those fouls and get to the line 4 or 5 times a game. And I think that's there for him at some point this season. I just think he has to keep with it, and I hope that he doesn't shy away from it just because of a couple nights like this.
You can only hope so. He was visibly frustrated at one point, hit a 3-point shot at a crucial moment to help Miami extend their lead, and kind of just threw his hands up and was just like kind of pleading to somebody. Well, thank God I was finally able to make that shot or something. Like it was very interesting to see him kind of go through this range of emotions over the course of the night. I'm optimistic too, because I like the aggression from him. I just would have liked for a lot of those shots to fall, and also for him to be able to draw some trips at the line.
He shot 40% overall tonight, so it's not like anybody was out here. Like it was sort of an inefficient night for them overall.
That's the role that I'm expecting from him. Yeah, he has to be Miami's best and most consistent scorer.
Yep. Kevin writes in, starting Lowry at point guard, have the Heat ever been down this bad? Tell me that you were born in 2019 without telling me that you were born in 2019. The Heat have been down way worse than this. You just came in. What?
At point guard?
I mean, in general.
Oh no, yeah, sure, bro. I mean, we had a worse starting point guard than Kyle Lowry.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember Kendrick Nunn.
He wasn't the starting point guard. It was Goran at that
point.
Goran,
I guess. Yeah. A worse starting point guard? I mean, than this Lowry? I guess not. I mean,
if that's the question that Kevin is asking, the answer is probably no. And look, I had kind of pleaded for Kyle, or I made my case that I thought Kyle was going to start, but if he's going to be this inconsistent, like he wasn't much of a factor at all. Like he didn't take a shot. Took one shot again, as you mentioned. It was barely a shot. He wasn't really setting the table for anybody. His defense was okay, but he was mostly a non-factor.
I mean, his guy was Cade Cunningham. Cade went for 30 tonight.
Well, yeah, I mean, he got those points on everybody. Like he took shots on Jimmy, fair. He took shots on Bam. You know, it happens when the switch heavy defense. But
I just don't know what the other option is. I guess to Kevin and your point, that Drew Smith played almost 9 minutes. He had 2 points, had a couple of deflections that I thought were nice, made a couple of defensive plays, but he's a nothing on off. I mean, he's a non-factor on offense.
I forgot to mention, Tyler's defense was actually pretty solid tonight, despite the fact that he
wasn't the effort I saw.
Yeah, despite the fact that his shot wasn't falling, I think he did recognize he had to do other things in order to make a positive impact in the game, and he certainly did that defensively.
Are the Heat bad enough at point guard for you to reconsider the James Harden option?
Yes.
Wow. Wait, for real?
I think so. I don't want to see another wasted season. Like, I know that they can flip the switch in the postseason. I just don't want to see another wasted 82-game effort from Jimmy and Bam. And if he's going to eat those innings and they can get it done, I don't see why not.
There's no Gabe Vincent walking through that door right now. You know what I mean?
I can't believe we're at that point. Yeah, but
I mean, Gabe was in the system for a really long time, had real playoff experience the year before last year when he basically became the starter for the postseason. Drew Smith could very well be that next Gabe Vincent one day, but he's not ready for that yet. I mean, the guy's brand new. He just came up from the two-way contract. So they need help at point guard. Again, no Josh Richardson tonight. He apparently got point guard reps in training camp. We barely saw it at all during actual preseason games. I don't think that that's necessarily the answer because Josh Richardson also isn't really a point guard. So, and they're clearly more comfortable with having somebody else run the offense on the first unit than Tyler Herro. They're comfortable enough with having Tyler run the second unit. But yeah, it's not a great situation for them at point guard. I would at least like to see Kyle Lowry take real shots in the flow of the offense to see if he can make shots because that would feel like it could be.
There were moments there where he was beyond the perimeter there, and he's got the ball in his hands, and there's a defender there. He just came off a pick and roll, and the defender kind of stayed on the ball on the screener, and he's got the ball there and kicks it out to Kevin Love.
There was one where he kicked it to Kevin Love, another one where he kicked it to Duncan Robinson in that scenario, and then he ran pick and roll with Jimmy a couple of times, and every time that happens, you've got two defenders going with Jimmy, and that if he wants to have that quick trigger on the shot, it's there. He could take that every single time he wants it. He just doesn't do it. And look, I understand that Kyle Lowry's unselfish, and that's his whole deal, but this team has enough unselfish guys, and when your best players are unselfish, Bam and Jimmy, then everybody else around them has to fall in the line and be like, you know what? When I get the shot because they're on the court, I got to take this shot and I got to make this shot. And it just feels like Lowry's not. I mean, look, this isn't new. He hasn't done this for 3 years, and the difference is now he's 37 years old, and I don't really know what he does out there at a high level anymore. I feel bad for saying it because he's a great player. He's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, but he's also 37. This just happens.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll see what happens next Friday night in Boston, ESPN. National broadcast. We'll be with you for a bonus episode this week. We're going to be recapping that game on Friday night, so make sure you're tuned in. Also, remember to check out our episode with play-by-play Heat legend Eric Reed. You're not going to want to miss what he has to say about his career, about working with Dr. Jack Ramsey and all these other things. We're really excited to give that to you on Friday. So thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app.